Check 1 2 1 2. Here we go. Welcome to the Catalyst Podcast. My name is Jason. The Catalyst Podcast is raw, real, and unedited. And you can find us at Catalyst Motivation on Facebook, at Catalyst Motivation 561 on YouTube, and Catalyst Motivation 561 on Instagram. A Catalyst has the power to create change, and we hope that's what this podcast will do. We will talk about the catalyst, the turning point, the journey, the lesson, and beyond. Welcome to episode 8. Again, my name is Jason. In episode 7, we were talking about the process of the chemo and what happened with work. And so we're continuing on with that. I believe we talked about the process of the PICC line and getting that all set up and all ready to go, and how that would start the process of the chemo. And I remember, as we were going through this chemo process, thinking back to one of my aunts who went through it, and what chemo looked like to me. Whenever I saw cancer and people going through chemo, how it destroyed them. Like completely, emaciates them, because you're killing your body to get rid of this. I know there's new technologies and things like that, and we'll talk about that, because I had an opportunity for some other options, but this at this point seemed to be the best way to go. And I remember again how I didn't panic about the, finding out about this and the treatment and the process. I just lived in the moment of it. I think it might have been the most aware I've ever been in my life at that point in time. And I just took it all in, because I knew that I was never going to, well, at least in my mind, my thought was, I'm going to do this once and that's it. So take in every little piece of it, from the CAT scans to the MRIs to the bone marrows, to the draining of the fluid of the lung, to dealing with the blood clots, to dealing with, the mini stroke. Oh yeah, I had a mini stroke. We'll talk about that a little bit later. All the things that happened. So when we got through that first round, and again, the process was I was going to be in the hospital as an inpatient, and I was going to do 5 days, 24 hours of chemo. Then I would do a week of Neupogen shots, and then I would do a week off, and then come back and start it all over again. And that started in mid-May, May 19th. So we did that first round of chemo, and I just remember how frail I felt as I was feeling. I was living in every feeling and thing that was going on with it. And I just remember when I left after that first round, how I did. I felt frail. I came in there one way and walked out a different way. And there were so many things on my mind, like, how am I going to work? How am I going to do these things? And we talked about that situation with my job at the time. I'm going to be, one paycheck is going to be missing. How is that going to work? And we had some wonderful people create these what's the word I'm thinking of? These little donation pieces online. And we had some friends who personally gave money, food. I had friends who flew down to help us out and everything. And that helped a great deal. So we had the support system in place, and some people saw it as an advantage to do some things that weren't above board, and we'll talk about that a little bit later. But I remember that first round, when that first round was over, and I came home, just getting the ride in the car, and just, I didn't feel like me. I felt broken, which I was. I mean, I was going through the process of breaking down and building up to save my life. And the medications, we had to go to the pharmacy, and all these medications I was on. It was like 4 or 5 medications, just with, all the things that kind of came along with the cancer, that kind of domino affected and created all these additional things that were going on. Just remember, it was just like I was present in, living through it, but I was disconnected kind of from reality. I kind of created my own little world, because it felt in a lot of cases that, even with the love and support and, and people, helping out and donating, there was a loneliness about it. And it really came to a point when it was the night of my first day back. And I remember in those 3 weeks where I got diagnosed and I was in the hospital and they gave me that first round of chemo, I turned my phone. I have one of those like fingerprints where you can open it up to the lock, the fingerprint lock. And I took that off because I wasn't sure what was going to happen. One thing for sure I did know is I'm not going to die, because I'm going to fight. But if something goes wrong and I might go into a coma or something may happen, she needs to reach out to people. My wife at the time decided to take that as an opportunity to go and look through my phone. As I mentioned before, at that point, our marriage, like, we were roommates. There was nothing physical. We weren't on the same page. We just weren't the right people for each other. We really, really weren't. And I'm much to blame for that as she is. Now, if you talk to her, it was all my fault. But I realized I wasn't there physically. I wasn't there mentally. I wasn't there emotionally. Because I wasn't there for myself. And as you know, before, in October of 2019, as I mentioned in a previous episode, that on Halloween, she asked for a divorce. And it was just a way for her to kind of like plant her flag and like, this is what you need to clean up and fix in order for this relationship to work. I don't have to do anything, but you have to do these things. And May 26th it was the day that I came back. We're sitting and watching TV, and I'm just trying to process everything. And out of the blue, she just turns around to me and she goes, "Are you having an affair?" I was like, wait, what? What did you just ask me? Are you having an affair? Why would you say that? She goes, well, I went to your phone and I found this. And she shows me. And because she saved it to her phone. And it was a conversation between myself and a friend from high school. Now, I'm going to leave the names out. But this friend of mine was someone that I had a crush on when I was in high school. And we never, or at least I never, acted on it. But we were always close, and we always, if you talk to anybody around us, like, we were a couple that wasn't a couple. Or at least they wanted us to be a couple. And I could be wrong. But that's what it felt like. And it just never happened. But we were close and remained friends. In fact, at this time, I even, I knew her husband, and, when we would go back, we would meet and hang out and all that kind of stuff. I mean, not all the time, but, we would, be social. She took a conversation. Mind you, this is 2019. The conversation was from 2010. And it was a conversation that had to deal with me coming home during Mother's Day weekend. Now, the job I was at the time had me traveling all over the place. I'd be on the road 5 days, and then I would come back for the weekend. And I would basically have 48 hours to be with my family. There was only one problem. If I got if the company gave me a flight to Fort Lauderdale, and we live in Jupiter, my wife at the time would not drive down there because she hated to go on 95 and was afraid. And if it was at night, it was even worse. So there was a few times when I slept in the airport and then had to take the tri-rail up to West Palm. So my time with my family was limited. So I got it. It was a Friday, and I'm telling her what my flight is and what time. And she said, well, I don't know how you're getting home. Now, you could say, well, Jason, why didn't you get a shuttle? Why didn't you get a cab or anything like that? Well, this flight in particular was after the hours of the tri-rail, and to spend that kind of money on a one-way ride on a shuttle, Uber, and the guys weren't really big yet. I didn't want to pay that money, and why should I have to? Right? So I decided to go to Pennsylvania, be with my mom for Mother's Day. And there was a conversation with that friend that I brought up, and I said, hey, listen, I'm going to be in town for Mother's Day weekend. I wanted to be on the DL, but I would like to see you and your cousin and hang out with each other. All right? She took the don't tell anyone and want to see you, took out the cousin part. And to her, that was me setting up an affair. And in fact, every time I went up to Pennsylvania, even with her, I was having an affair with this person. Now, the last time we were there was 2 years prior, and then before that was 3 years prior. But I was having an affair in her mind. I couldn't believe this was happening. I'm going to continue on with this in episode 9. But right now, this is episode 8 of the Catalyst podcast. Raw, real, and unedited. You can find Catalyst at Facebook, Catalyst Motivation, YouTube, at Catalyst Motivation 561, on Instagram, Catalyst Motivation 561. A Catalyst has the power to create change, and we hope that this podcast will do that. I will see you on the flip side on episode 9, continuing this story. But again, thank you so much for listening and supporting the Catalyst podcast. See you on episode 9. Go be great.